The Prime Minister recently drew parallels between his government and the administrations of New Labour, as well as the era of Margaret Thatcher. He asserted that for an extended period, regulatory frameworks have impeded Britain's ability to build a prosperous future. This statement highlights a critical discourse on the balance between regulation and economic growth, a topic that has garnered significant attention in contemporary British politics. In the context of upcoming economic policies, the Chancellor is poised to unveil strategies aimed at stimulating growth. Notably, he will spotlight the region surrounding Oxford and Cambridge, positioning it as a potential hub akin to Silicon Valley in the United States. This comparison is not merely a nod to technological innovation. It reflects a broader ambition to elevate the UK's stature in the global economic landscape. In a recent article for The Times, Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, articulated strong criticism of the current regulatory environment. He referred to the morass of regulation that he believes effectively stifles investment opportunities, amounting to billions of pounds. His metaphor likening this regulatory burden to thickets of red tape that have proliferated throughout the British economy like Japanese knotweed serves to illustrate the pervasive and often detrimental nature of excessive regulation. Historical context. To fully appreciate the significance of these statements, it is essential to consider the historical context of regulation in the UK. The late 20th century saw a marked shift in economic policy under Thatcher, who championed deregulation as a means of fostering a more competitive market. Her government's approach was rooted in the belief that reducing the regulatory burden would unleash entrepreneurial spirit and drive economic growth. This philosophy resonated with many business leaders and policymakers, who viewed regulation as an impediment to innovation and success. In contrast, the New Labour era under Tony Blair introduced a more nuanced approach to regulation, recognizing the need for a balance between fostering economic growth and protecting public interests. This period was characterized by an increase in regulatory frameworks aimed at ensuring corporate accountability and social welfare. However, critics argue that this expansion of regulation has led to an environment where businesses face overwhelming compliance costs and bureaucratic hurdles. The current landscape. Fast forward to today, and the debate surrounding regulation remains as pertinent as ever. The Prime Minister's invocation of Thatcher's legacy and the New Labour approach underscores a pivotal moment in British politics, one where the government seeks to recalibrate its regulatory stance to facilitate economic growth. The emphasis on the Oxford-Cambridge region as a potential Silicon Valley reflects a strategic vision to harness the UK's intellectual capital and innovation potential. The term Silicon Valley evokes images of tech giants and startups thriving in a culture of creativity and risk-taking. For the UK to achieve a similar status, it must create an environment conducive to investment and innovation. This includes not only reducing regulatory burdens, but also providing supportive infrastructure, access to funding, and an educated workforce. The challenge lies in balancing these needs with the necessary protections for consumers, workers, and the environment. The argument against excessive regulation. Sir Keir Starmer's critique of regulatory practices resonates with a significant segment of the business community. Many entrepreneurs and investors argue that the current regulatory landscape is overly complex and restrictive. They contend that excessive regulations can deter investment, hinder growth, and stifle innovation. For instance, startups often find themselves bogged down by compliance requirements that divert resources away from product development and market entry. The metaphor of Japanese knotweed is particularly illustrative. This invasive plant spreads rapidly and can cause significant damage to infrastructure and property. Similarly, proponents of deregulation argue that red tape can choke businesses, making it difficult for them to thrive. They advocate for a careful review of existing regulations to identify those that are outdated or unnecessary, thereby streamlining processes and fostering a more business-friendly environment. The risk of deregulation. However, the call for deregulation raises important questions about the potential risks involved. Critics warn that a rush to eliminate regulations without considering their implications could lead to negative outcomes. For instance, deregulation in sectors such as finance has, at times, resulted in crises that have had far-reaching consequences for the economy and society at large. Moreover, regulations often serve a critical purpose, safeguarding public health, safety, and the environment. The challenge for policymakers is to find a middle ground, a regulatory framework that supports economic growth while ensuring that essential protections remain in place. This requires a thoughtful approach, grounded in evidence and stakeholder input, to ensure that regulations are both effective and efficient. ###The role of innovation. Innovation is a key driver of economic growth, and the UK has a rich history of fostering groundbreaking ideas. The emphasis on the Oxford-Cambridge region as a potential tech hub highlights the importance of nurturing talent and promoting collaboration between academia and industry. Research institutions in this area have produced world-class innovations, and fostering an ecosystem that supports these initiatives can lead to significant economic benefits. Investment in research and development (R&D) is crucial for driving innovation. Governments around the world recognize the importance of R&D in maintaining competitive advantages in the global economy. By creating incentives for businesses to invest in R&D, the UK can further position itself as a leader in technology and innovation. ###The future of regulation in the UK. As the government prepares to unveil its policies aimed at stimulating economic growth, the discourse surrounding regulation will undoubtedly continue to evolve. The challenge will be to strike the right balance between fostering a vibrant business environment and ensuring that necessary protections remain in place. In this context, it is essential for policymakers to engage with a diverse range of stakeholders, including businesses, consumers, and advocacy groups, to gain insights into the impacts of regulation and identify opportunities for improvement. Collaborative approaches can lead to more effective regulatory frameworks that promote growth while addressing the concerns of various constituencies. ###Conclusion. In conclusion, the Prime Minister's remarks, along with Sir Keir Starmer's critique, reflect a broader conversation about the role of regulation in the UK's economic future. As the government seeks to navigate the complexities of fostering growth in a competitive global landscape, it will be essential to consider both the benefits and drawbacks of regulatory frameworks. The potential of regions like Oxford and Cambridge to emerge as hubs of innovation and technology underscores the importance of creating an environment that nurtures talent and investment. Ultimately, the path forward will require a careful balancing act, one that promotes economic growth while safeguarding public interests and ensuring a fair and equitable society.